my fifth grade son in fifth grade, and he had a doctor's appointment a couple weeks ago, right after school, and so I pick him up for the appointment, and I'm taking him there, and it is in Mesa. It's about 20, 25 minutes away. It's one of those doctor's appointments where if you are 10 minutes late, you will have to reschedule. Don't we love those? You may wait for an hour, but if you are 10 minutes late, that's it. So we're in the car and we're driving, and I was already a few minutes late, and I wasn't too worried about it because I knew I had till 10. And we're cruising along, and all of a sudden this yellow light comes on my dashboard with a message next to it that says, coolant low, slow engine. And I'm thinking, I've never had that message come up on this car before. And I keep the levels up, the fluids, so that must not be true. And I just keep going. And we go a couple more miles, I stop, and then this yellow light turns to red with the same message. But I'm still thinking, you know, this is twice now, car, you've gotten it wrong. Interesting. And then I just keep driving because, you know, we don't have a lot of time. I would drive for a couple more miles and come to a red light, and I stop the vehicle at the red light, and smoke is coming out from under the hood. And that was the moment where I thought, okay, maybe it's a little low, not convinced, possibly. Go a couple more miles. Now I'm close. I'm just a few miles away. The message changes. High temperature, stop the car now. And I just Zane, put another seatbelt on. We're not stopping, man. We 10 minutes and I got to reschedule. That is not worth seizing an engine over. So we're going. Or the other way around. And we pull in, we stop, and we make it there. Okay, good news, we make it. We pull, stop the car and get out. You know those some cars, maybe your car does this, if it's a little hot, the fan will continue to run after you turn the car off to help cool it down. This one does that. Sounded like a aircraft thing taking off. Just never heard that loud. People are walking out kind of looking at us. I'm like, Zane, just keep your head down, walk in the office, just go. Don't look don't make eye contact. We get in there, and the good news is, you know, we made it to the appointment on time, right? That's the good news. But isn't that often the car's still a little bit messed up? But that's the bad news. Isn't that often how we live our lives, though? We go. We're always on the move. We're fast-paced. We've got these lights that are coming on, telling us to slow down, that something is running low in our lives. There's smoke coming out from underneath the hood in your life, but we keep going because, you know, time's of the essence. And it's just that our culture sort of like that. That's what we live in. It's so fast-paced. I mean, with our fast food and fast internet service, my son Sam, that was his Christmas wish. I want faster internet. It didn't happen. Sorry, Sam. We have fast shipping. You order it this morning, it comes in 2 hours. I mean, everything is just so fast. And as a result of this, man, we're overworked and we're overstressed and we're worn out, we're exhausted. And then we begin to see that our family begins to suffer because of the rate and speed in which we are moving in, and our health begins to suffer, and we get broken down and worn down, and our relationships begin to suffer because they start falling by the wayside. All our priorities, they all start getting all out of whack and upside down. Our life just feels totally out of balance, right? And then if that's all not bad enough, then we're like, man, and I still don't have enough time to do and finish the things that I want to do and need to get done, even after all that. And we say to ourselves, if only I had more, say it with me, time. If only I had more time. What if there was one thing that would really help with all of this? You know, what if there was one thing that would help us slow down? Because as it turns out, I've got a lot of good news to share today. Here's the bad news. I looked ahead at the 2019 calendar. It doesn't change. We got 365 days we're working with. We got our 52 weeks a year, 7 days, 24 hours. It doesn't, that more time that we want, it doesn't exist or show up in the 2019 calendar. I checked. But maybe there's one thing that will help us slow down still. Maybe there's one thing that will help us use our time a bit differently and give us some rest and help in the ways that we need it. And so that's what I want to look at today. It's this thing called the Sabbath. And what I want to do today is I want us to look at where's the idea of the Sabbath like even come from, originate from, and what does it mean? That would be helpful. What did Jesus have to say about this? And then the last thing we'll see is what does this kind of look like for us today? So open your Bibles, Genesis 1. If you got a new Bible for Christmas and this is the first time you're opening it, you're in luck. Just go to page 1. You have nothing, couldn't be any easier right now. You're in luck, okay? Mary, you're welcome. Genesis 1, go to the very end of the chapter, verse 31. Genesis 1:31, and we'll begin by just kind of seeing where this whole idea comes from. So in Genesis chapter 1, God creates. We have these 6 days of creation, verse 31. God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. And there was evening and morning the 6th day. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. By the 7th day, God had finished the work that he had been doing. So on the 7th day, he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the 7th day, and he made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. So 3 things happen on day 7. God does 3 things on day 7. There were some notes in your bulletin if you want to take notes on this. 3 things. The first one, God rests. Now, he doesn't rest, right, because he's tired or exhausted or worn out. You know, like, whew, that was a big job, making the heavens and the earth and everything in them, which, of course, it was a big job. But that's not why he's not tired. To rest means that he ceased from his creative work. He stopped creating. Why? Because it's complete. It's finished. It's done. So he stops, he rests from what he's creating, and he kind of sits back and enjoys what he has accomplished. He has created a world that has met all of his expectations. It's wonderful, it's beautiful. We just read that it's very good is what he says. He enjoys what he has created. 6 days of working and then this 1 day of resting is something that perhaps God is modeling to us right out of the gate. There's a second thing that he does after he rests. We read that God blesses this day. Now, God had already blessed, we didn't read this, but I'm just gonna tell you what it is. God had already blessed 2 things in creation before he blesses the 7th day. The first one were animals, the second one were humans. And when he blesses both of them, he says, right after he blesses them, he then says, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth, right? In other words, bring forth life. Then he comes to day 7 and he blesses it. And I wonder if in doing that, God is saying there's something about this day that is supposed to be life-giving to you and to me. Third thing that he does is he makes it holy. Now we say it's the third thing that he blesses, but it's the very, very first thing in the Bible that we read that God makes holy. He makes time holy. God says, here's this day, the 7th day, this period of time, and I'm calling it holy. In other creation accounts, not in the Bible, other creation accounts in the ancient Near East, when the God was done creating, at the end of that creation, they typically make a place holy. So there'd be a mountain or a cave or a temple, something like that would be made holy, and that would be where you'd find the presence of that God and be with them. Here in Genesis, when we read the creative account in the Bible, the God of Israel, Yahweh, what he makes holy is not a place. He makes time holy. On day 7, God stops what he's doing and he looks at us. And on day 7, we are to stop what we are doing and look back at God. Let me see if this helps a little bit. Because it seems like every day we should be looking to God, right? I mean, every day is kind of meant for God, or shouldn't we be looking to him and all that every day? And so I've been married 21 years. My wife is Julie, and Every day we see each other, unless we're out of town or something, of course, but we see each other every day. Every day we talk and communicate. That's important, right? Every day we look for ways that we can help each other, serve each other. Every day I need to be respectful to her. She needs to be respectful to me. If those things just don't exist or happen on a day, that could be a problem. But on a date night or a date day, that's a special time. Right? We're still doing those things, but there's something more special about it. And specifically, one of the things that we do during that time is we say, hey, we're gonna remove any distractions from our life so that we can give each other our full attention. Our full attention. And maybe what God is setting up for us here in the beginning of Genesis is a way in which you and I could give God our full attention. The Sabbath then is when we stop and see God. It's a time that we stop and see God. So it originates in Genesis. I want us to look at the very first place where we see it given as a command, as something that people are to do in the Bible. Okay, so turn over to the next book, Exodus. Exodus chapter 16. Exodus 16 and go to verse 21. So let me give you a quick little backdrop. It's not up there, so don't read yet. We'll read that in a second. So in Exodus 16, the people of Israel, they were slaves in Egypt. God freed them from being slaves in Egypt under Pharaoh. He rescues them. They're out in the wilderness now, and they start complaining about food. They're hungry. They want to eat. So God says, okay, I'm going to give you some food. I'll give you some quail meat in the evenings and some flaky stuff on the ground in the morning, which is like a bread. And every morning you're to go out and you're to collect this bread, this manna, it's called manna. You're to collect that, but you're only to collect what you need to eat for you and for your family for that day. And that's it. If you take any more than that, the next morning, if you have extras, it's gonna be rotten, full of maggots, spoiled, foul, nasty. But he says, but on day six, I do want you to do that. I want you to collect 2 days because I'm not gonna have you go out on day 7. That's a day of rest. You're gonna stop on that day. And I'm gonna provide for you on that day, on day 6. So look at verse 21. Each morning, everyone gathered as much as they needed. And when the sun grew hot, it melted away. On the 6th day, they gathered twice as much, 2 omers for each person, and the leaders of the community came and reported this to Moses. He said to them, this is what the Lord commanded. Tomorrow is to be a day of Sabbath rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. So bake what you want to bake and boil what you want to boil. Save whatever is left and keep it until morning. So they saved it until morning as Moses commanded, and it did not stink or get maggots in it. Eat it today, Moses said, because today is a Sabbath to the Lord. It's a Sabbath to the Lord. You will not find any of it on the ground today. 6 days you are to gather it, but on the 7th day, the Sabbath, there will not be any. So the Sabbath was a time when they were to stop and see God. God says to them, so you're gonna go out on day 6 and collect for 2 days. And in doing that, you'll have some for the following day, for day 7. This is a day we just read. It's a Sabbath. It's to the Lord. It's for you guys, but it's to me. This is a day that I want you to look at me and see me and worship me and focus on me. On this day, when you don't work and you don't go out and gather food and you don't do all the things that you normally do, you are gonna stop and you are gonna see me. You are gonna remember some things, right? Every week, this one day a week, I want you remembering that I am the God that freed you, that rescued you out of Egypt. And when you have that food the next day and it's still good, I want you to remember that even though you work hard and you provide for your family, and that's a good thing, I am your ultimate provider. On every other day, the food, if you take too much, it's gonna be bad and spoiled, but I'm gonna do a miracle in front of your eyes every single week. The extra food on day 6, it's not gonna be bad on day 7. It's gonna be real good, and you can eat it and enjoy it. And when you do that, you are gonna remember that I am your ultimate provider. You people, you're in the wilderness right now. You haven't found the promised land. They're not in the promised land yet. They're on their way to this promised land. So right now you're wandering around. You're wondering what's next, what's coming, what do we do now? How do we get from point A to point B? And on this day, you're gonna stop and see me. You're gonna remember that I am in control of everything, that I've got you, that I'm leading you, that I am your God. I mean, you are going to be tempted just like we are, right? To control everything and to fix everything. Our kids start going sideways and we want to control them and get them going the direction that we want. And doctor gives us bad news, so we work super hard to fix everything in our body. Then we go back months later for a checkup and it's still not really fixed. And we want to do that. And we work all year long for that promotion and we work so hard. And then we go and we find out someone else is getting that promotion and we're not getting it. And we want to take every circumstance in our life and control it and do something with it. And God says, this is a time that you stop and you remember. You remember that I am in control, so you don't have to be. And as a result of that, here's what happens when we stop and see God. The point of it, ready? The point of it is that our faith is then renewed and we trust God again. The people were, as they do this, as God provides that manna for them, and it doesn't go bad, and that miracle in front of their eyes, and they remember, yeah, you rescued us, and you're our provider, and you're in control. What does that do in them? It says, oh, God, you are a good, trustworthy God. My faith is renewed, because on any given day, we could have that just kind of blown out of us, right? On any given day, you could have bad news come your way, and your faith just kind of sinks, and your trust in God gets a little shaky. But check this out. This is what's super, super cool about this. Ready? If we practice the Sabbath in any way, if we do that in any way, here's what that means. That means the worst case scenario, you are always only 6 days away from regaining a holy perspective. Worst case scenario, because it could be day one and you get the worst news of your life. It could be day one, you lose your job. It could be day one, doctor gives you the worst news. It could be day one of the week, and this happens, the worst news, but you only have 6 days to go before you can regain a holy perspective once again, where we stop and we see God and we remember who he is. Not all of them did that. Look at the next few verses, verse 27. That was the goal. That was the intention, right? For them, I think for us, look at verse 27. Nevertheless, love that word. Nevertheless, some of the people went out on the Sabbath or the seventh day to gather, but they found none. Then the Lord said to Moses, how long will you refuse to keep my commandments and my instructions? For those of you that know the story, a long time. Verse 29, bear in mind that the Lord has given you the Sabbath. That is why on the sixth day he gives you bread for 2 days. Everyone is to stay where they are on the seventh day. No one is to go out. So the people rested on the seventh day. In other words, he's like, whoa. Some of you are not stopping. You're going out anyway. Why are you tired? I couldn't have made it more clear. Listen, come to a full, complete stop on this day and look to me and see me and remember and trust me and be renewed in your faith. That is what you need. But a lot of them didn't do it. We are people, God knows, we are people that need to stop. We are people that need rest, right? What do we need rest from? A lot of things. We need rest from just being hurt. Life has a way of just sending things to us in our way that just hurt us. Maybe 2018 was a hard, hurtful year for you. Just emotionally painful, relationally hard, and you need rest. You need rest from that. Rest gives our souls the time that they need to heal. We need rest from being hurt. We need rest from heavy labors, right? Just the things in life that they're not necessarily like hurts that we get, but they're just these trials and these difficulties, these things that are just not easy and they're hard. And we just have to pick them up and like carry them. And we just do, right? There's no way around it. There's no quick fix. They're just heavy and they're hard, and we need to get up another day and go and do it. And maybe you don't have any of those in your life right now. And you're like, oh, cool, I don't need rest from that. But maybe you're a really good friend. And so when you see your friend with a heavy labor, you come alongside them and you say, hey, I don't want you to carry that heavy load alone. Let me shoulder that with you. Let's carry that together. And that's the right thing, to keep doing that. That is good. But that also just gave you a heavy labor that now you are carrying. And we need rest from those things. It's no secret that Jesus said, hey, come to me, all you who are weary, heavy laden, I will give you rest. We need rest from our fast-paced world. We're just going nonstop. I kind of mentioned a few things in the beginning about this, but trying to keep up with everything wears us out. Found it interesting that in 1972, Americans spent $3 billion a year on fast food. Today, it's over $110 billion a year we spend on fast food because we know how to move. We know how to get to appointments on time without missing it. I will not reschedule. I may just need a new car, but I am not rescheduling that appointment. I can do fast. We are, the average time to respond to an email is 90 minutes. Average time to respond to a text is 90 seconds. That's why when you get a text, 2 minutes later, your phone dings again. It's like, dude, you're late. You're late. Your 90 seconds is up. That's when you're supposed to respond. 90% of Americans have their phone within reach 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Their phone is within reach. We don't take a break. We are slaves of activity. But we don't know how to do boredom anymore. I love it when my kids say to me, I'm bored. I'm like, thank God. This is a miracle. It's a miracle before my eyes. Boredom has resurrected itself. Embrace it, child. You don't know the gift that you behold. We need breaks. We need rest from our jobs. Right? I mean, kind of gone are the days, typically one job, 40 hours a week. I mean, we're just going, we're working more hours than ever. We're going from job to job to job. We're working more hours than probably we have, and there's less job security because people don't stay at one place very long. We need to stop striving and doing and producing, right? This is a time that we need rest and we need to stop from our job and remember the world will go on without you. It'll be just fine. It's okay. We need rest from information overload, right? We've got more information than we know what to do with. And it's just bombarding us all the time. We need to take a break from this. And lastly, we need rest from spiritually striving to prove ourselves to God, where we think, God, I've got to do this to measure up to you so that you'll love me and accept me and I'll belong once again. Listen, the Sabbath is a time where just like God, after 6 days of creation, he stopped and he rested and he looked at his completed work of creation that was very good and he enjoyed what he accomplished. Guess what? On the Sabbath, we stop and we remember that our salvation is complete in Christ. It's all finished at the cross. I don't have to keep striving to earn God's love. I don't have to do things to measure up, to make God accept me. It's all finished. It's complete. And we celebrate that. We remember that God loves you just as you are, not as you should be. And his grace and love is covering us. Now, this is a little different than a day off, right? It almost kind of sounds like that, the Sabbath. It almost sounds like, well, isn't this kind of like a day off? The thing is, on a day off, we tend to keep working, though. That's the only problem. In fact, a study said that studies show that there's 705 million unused vacation days in 2018. I forgot to do this last hour. Real quick, how many of you did not use all of your vacation time in 2018? Raise your hand. Yeah, it's okay. It's only slight judgment happening. Just kidding, there's none. We're not very good at that. We don't know how to even take our days off very well. But even so, doesn't matter, right? Why? Day off is a little bit different because a day off, first of all, we often just keep working, okay? So there's that problem, right? We're checking emails, we're doing things, we're thinking about work, we're scheming about work, the wheels are still cranking, right? That's happening on our day off. So there's that. But we also just do a whole bunch of other things, right? That's when we do all the laundry and the house chores and the cleaning. We pay the bills. We go shopping. We're running around, running our errands. We do all that stuff on our day off. So we're working. This This is different than that. It's even a little bit different than leisure time. I mean, maybe if you go out and play golf, maybe that is a time that you truly stop everything and you do see God in a miraculous way. I don't. I hate it. It's frustrating. It's why I don't do it anymore. I would see more of Satan, I suppose, than God if I was doing that. So maybe there's some leisure activity that could be a part of that. But the point is, it's different than a day off. What does Jesus have to say about this? Look at one other passage. Flip over to Mark, because Jesus has something I think that's really important for us to see about this. It's helpful. It's helpful. As it turns out, Jesus in the New Testament actually say quite a bit about the Sabbath, and we're just going to look at this one thing and that's it for time in that. But look what Jesus says, Matthew 2:23. This was on the Sabbath. One Sabbath, Jesus was going through the grain fields, and his disciples walked along. They began to pick some heads of grain. So they were hungry, and they were looking for a way to eat. The Pharisees said to him, "Look, why are they doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath?" So disciples, they're doing something that the Pharisees think they shouldn't be doing because it's the Sabbath. Pharisees get all up in a wad over it. It's just a normal day in the life of Jesus with the Pharisees. Jump down to verse 27. Then he, Jesus, said to them, "The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man," which is a reference to Jesus himself, "is Lord even of the Sabbath." Jesus is like, look, I've got authority over everything, including the Sabbath. So can I tell you something about the Sabbath? And I think Jesus' main point is this. Look, the Sabbath is always for your good. It's always just for our good. That's the bottom line. We tend to have these two extremes with the Sabbath. We add to it or we subtract it. So the Pharisees, they were great at doing the extreme of adding to it. They saw the second part of what Jesus said, that they were made for the Sabbath. So the Sabbath was over them. They were to serve the Sabbath and follow the Sabbath no matter what. So they added extra rules and guidelines and obligations, made this big, difficult burden thing to kind of carry out, live, and do. And Jesus is like, yeah, you've added it. That's not the point of the Sabbath. And you're all caught up in a wad over what I'm doing on the Sabbath, but you're missing the intention of the Sabbath. That's one extreme, right? We add to it. Here's the thing. My guess is none of us in this room, it's kind of a big statement, none of us fall into this category. None of us are like, yeah, that's me. I just add so much to the Sabbath and make it so difficult and hard. Maybe you do, probably not. The other extreme is we just subtract it. We just ignore it altogether. We don't pay any attention to it much, maybe at all, right? And I think it's why Jesus is saying, hey, just so you know, Sabbath was made for humanity. It's for you. It's something that's designed to help you and be for your good, for your good. When I was in seminary, I still remember, we were in there and we had this conversation in seminary about the 10 Commandments, okay? The 10 Commandments given to Moses, Exodus for the people of Israel, those 10 Commandments. And one of them, of course, is obviously remember the Sabbath, keep it holy. So the question was, are we as believers in the New Testament, the New Covenant under Jesus, are we still obligated to follow the 10 Commandments? Now, there's a lot to this, and for sake of time, we're gonna kind of go quickly through here. But the point is, we said, well, the 10 Commandments are repeated in the New Testament. So aside from whether they apply to us or not in the Old Testament, because they were given to Moses for the people of Israel and all that business, aside from all of that, the commandments are given again in the New Testament, so they would naturally then be for us, all except one, right? Guess which one of the 10 Commandments isn't given as a command that we must do as followers of Jesus? The Sabbath. Yeah, I was waiting for you, but I guess you were waiting for me. We're both just waiting for each other. We're not going to get very far. The Sabbath. Yeah, the Sabbath isn't given as a command, but I think what Jesus is saying is, while that's true, it's still for our good. The New Testament also doesn't command you to sleep 8 hours a night, but as it turns out, that's a helpful thing to do. It's for your good. there's a lot of things that maybe aren't necessarily commanded, right? But they are good for us. And I think Jesus is saying this. And it's interesting. Did you know that the majority of the healings that Jesus does, you know when he does them? On the Sabbath. I mean, picture this scene. This woman comes up to Jesus. She's bent over. She can't stand up straight for 18 years because she has evil spirits in her. She comes up to Jesus. It's on the Sabbath. What does Jesus do? The Pharisees are going to go ballistic over this, but Jesus looks at this woman and says, what does this woman need rest from on the Sabbath? It is the Sabbath. It is a day of rest. What does she need rest from? The answer is very obvious. So he frees her of these spirits, and she stands up straight for the first time in 18 years. And my guess is she also saw the hand of God in a miraculous way in her life. It's the Sabbath. We read about a man with a hand that's totally paralyzed and bent over and crippled, and he can't move it. And Jesus looks at his hand. What does he need rest from on the Sabbath? How does he need rest? So Jesus heals this man's hand. And in doing so, this man not only finds rest from his crippled hand that he had for his life, but he also sees the hand of God in his life. The Sabbath is meant for us to stop and to see God. It's always for our good. Jesus, on the Sabbath, he did these things because they allowed people to see the creative, redemptive, good, healing work of God in their lives. And this is the intention of the Sabbath. So the Sabbath then, it's not meant to give you a guilt trip. It is a gift from God for your good. So none of you are allowed to leave today and think, oh, great. Oh, fantastic. I already have like a pile of things that I can't get done, and I don't know how I'm going to finish them all in my week. And now on top of that, I have to figure out how to take some day and like do a Sabbath thing. No, you're not allowed to leave that way. Sorry. You're not allowed to leave with a guilt trip, right? Because this isn't a command. We live under, we're going to be gracious to each other in this, but all we want to do is stop today and think about, especially as we approach a new year, how might we begin to exercise, practice this gift from God that is intended for our good so that we could have a rhythm of stopping and seeing him. Julie, my wife, she teaches 6th grade, and she has some students in her class, when she gives them an essay to write, maybe it's just like a paragraph or two, it's not very much. Some of them, what they turn back into her is unreadable. The words aren't spelled right, nothing is capitalized, we're missing verbs, we're missing subjects. It is just, and there is 0 punctuation marks, 0. No commas, no periods, no question marks, no nothing. It's just this ongoing litany of words that don't make any sense. You know what the Sabbath is? The Sabbath is a period, a punctuation mark in your life. It's a time, it's a regular time where you stop, and then you stop again, and then you stop again. Because without it, we may just live a life that is one big, long, run-on sentence. And as many of us have experienced, that's an exhausting, hard way to live. This is something that's for our good. So a couple closing thoughts if you want to start something like this. Here's the first one, pick a day. Pick a day of when you would Sabbath, because it doesn't have to be on Sunday, although for many of you, Sunday is a great day to do this. I don't think it has to be the Sunday. Maybe your schedules and your work schedules, they're all different, and so that doesn't work for you, but if it does, that's great, because we gather and we worship. This is a natural time. This is a natural place to stop and to see God and to enjoy him together. And so if Sunday works, great. For me, Sunday's a bit more of a work day, so I like to kind of start a Sabbath more like on on a Thursday night where I unplug from some things and I remove some distractions and I just, we eat together and then I just go through that night and then that next morning I'm unplugged and disconnected and spending time listening to God and seeing him and hearing from him and those types of things. But pick a day or a time. And if a day is too much, if you're just like, you hear all this and the thought of 24 hours of somehow stopping and seeing God and not doing all these things we're talking about, if that's just like, and you just can't take it in, then okay, we're gonna be gracious here. Maybe start with a half a day, right? Start with a half a day and see how that goes. Here's the second thing, prepare ahead. This isn't easy. It's why many of us ignore it, because it does require a little bit of work to get there. It does require some effort to get there. Remember though what we read about the Israelites when they were in the wilderness? God said, hey, on day 6, you're gonna do some work to prepare. You're gonna get 2 portions of food and you're gonna bake it or boil it. You're gonna prepare it all so that way when the Sabbath comes, you can just stop and rest and see me and worship me and do that. So maybe make a meal ahead of time so you don't have to do so much cooking on the Sabbath. Do the house chores ahead of time. So on the Sabbath, you're not vacuuming and cleaning and doing all the stuff that's just taking effort and work. Pay your bills some other time, or maybe just pay your bills at all would be good for some of you. Number 3, stop and be present, right? This is obviously getting at the heart of this thing. Just stop and be present. We have a hard time in our fast-pacedness of stopping and being present right where we are. There's a reason why the phrase stop and smell the roses, right? Why that became a phrase. We need it. That's why. Practice it. Try it. Plan to see God. Number 4, plan to see God. So come to church and worship, read your Bible, pray, journal, write, take a nap if you need one, go on way more walks, look at God around you, be present right where you are, connect with your neighbors and people that we just often don't even think about. They're right there, but we're just flying a million miles an hour. We miss it all the time. Plan to see. Ask yourself this, does what I'm doing on this day, during this time, does it help me see God better? Does this thing that I'm about to engage in, does it help me be in the presence of God? If it does, then try it out for your Sabbath. And if afterwards you're like, wow, that didn't work at all, that's okay. Maybe it's gonna take weeks, months before you feel like you've dialed in a rhythm of a Sabbath. That's okay. That's okay. We'll talk about it again next year and we'll see how you're doing. Last thing, party with family and friends. I know it's New Year's, so this is timely. Here's the thing, we didn't look at any of this, right? Today was an introduction on the Sabbath. Throughout the New Testament, the Sabbath is not something that was really, it wasn't primarily an individual practice. It was often a communal one. So yes, have time alone and all of that, but know that the Sabbath, it's meant to be spent with family, with friends, eating together, enjoying one another, slowing down together, seeing God together, spending time with these people as we focus on who God is. So my challenge for you is to really think about how you could begin this practice and bring it into your life as we go into a new year.